Welcome to Manager Tools. Today's topic, measuring feedback. Chapter 1, Part 2. Here we go. Okay, so help me, because there's two problems that I've run into when trying to getting better at feedback years ago. One was just, frankly, remembering to do it, right? I get to the end of the day and go like, oh crap, I didn't get any feedback today. So remembering.
Yeah. Oh, right? I spent like 3 years of my life doing that.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just sad. It just kills you. And then second, counting them or measuring them in a way that doesn't require me to have to pull up my iPhone or carry around a piece of paper or spreadsheet. Okay, even I didn't go to spreadsheet.
Really? I thought that was you. No, I'm kidding, guys. I'm kidding.
Please. Yeah. So it kind of appeals to me in a strange kind of way, but
it's strange in a strange kind of way. Good. But to be fair, though, we're talking about a spreadsheet. We have to admit, there was a guy several years ago who actually got so excited about feedback and said, I just love this feedback stuff.
And his name was, no, we're not going to do that to you.
No, I don't remember who it was. He actually said, I think it was in the forums, he said, they wrote us and said, that's what they're doing. Hustling back to his desk and actually capturing what they just did in the spreadsheet. Who they gave it to, when they gave it to him, what they talked about, and so on. Literally, I'm thinking, wow, that takes 10 times longer than the actual feedback itself. But, a little too hard there, Yeah.
But there's ways. We have some techniques that'll help you. One, help you remember, and then just make it really simple to carry.
Yeah, this is the famous poker chip technique, and you and I owe our good friend Michael Swenson for this suggestion. I think at one point Michael told us where he got the idea. I wouldn't be surprised if it's from scouting. He and his boys have done scouting for a number of years. I could be wrong. I can tell you, though, this is the single best technique I've ever heard. So, Michael, thank you again for the 100th time. We've tried this. It's brilliant. It works like a charm. You don't need a spreadsheet. If you're thinking spreadsheet, you're in the wrong neighborhood, folks. Here's what you do. Go to work with one poker chip in your left-hand trouser pocket. Okay. Now, folks, if you don't wear trousers to work, that's okay. Technique number 2 is written just for you. We'll come to that. Okay. So you're at work and you've got one poker chip in your left-hand trousers pocket. When you give feedback to one of your directs that day, take that poker chip out of your left-hand pocket and put it in your right or correct pocket. Okay? Now look, during the day, you'll probably have reason to put your hands in your trousers pockets. And every time you do, you'll have a little reminder, after a fashion, you might want to call it feedback if you wanted, although it's not, about how you're doing. Okay? We cannot tell you how many times we've reached in our pocket at 3 o'clock in the afternoon into our right or left pocket, found no poker chip in the right pocket, found a poker chip in the left pocket, and gotten very busy very quickly at trying to find somebody and paying attention and give some feedback. And often it was like, I could have given feedback about something this morning. I remember seeing it, and I didn't say anything because it was too small or not a big deal or whatever. And you can go back over the day and say, I can give feedback to Bob or Jane or Tara or anybody about this or that or the other thing. And it'd be fun.
Well, here's the cool thing about this. This is one of the learning points. Is I had this happen many, many years ago. I used a different technique, doesn't matter, where at the end of the day, I hadn't given feedback. There were plenty of opportunities where I could have given feedback, but I didn't. And so I went back to an individual and I gave them that piece of trivial feedback that I thought was no big deal.
Right.
And their face just completely lit up.
Yeah.
Completely.
Yeah.
And that's when I okay, this stuff works.
Yeah.
And maybe that thing that's trivial, maybe it isn't so trivial to the person who's doing it, right?
So, folks, what we're recommending is you carry around a poker chip, one poker chip in your left-hand trouser pocket all day until you give feedback. When you give feedback, move that poker chip to your right or correct pocket. And at the end of the day, the hope is that you'll have moved that poker chip to your right or correct pocket. It's a nice feeling, I can assure you. And you'll discover this is a lot harder than you might think. Okay? And it's a good bit of self-feedback whether you move the thing from the left to the right. And you think, well, that can't be that hard. If you put your hands in your pockets throughout the day, you'll get reminders. But what happens is you get to work and you've got an idea. I'm going to do it. I'm going to move it. I'm going to move it over to my right. But at some point you look for something and then you get busy in a meeting and then you forget because this is not ingrained in you. Suddenly it's 3 o'clock in the afternoon. You're like, oh my gosh, I haven't done it.
Yeah. And folks, if you're thinking right now, oh, one poker chip, how hard can it be?
Yeah.
Well, go do it. Go do
Poker
it.
chip gets really heavy on that.
It'll get real easy at some point, right? But right now we're just talking about one single poker chip. Okay, so
we're going to make it a lot harder in about 15 minutes.
Well, of course we will. Of course we will. Okay, but a lot of the women who are listening to us don't necessarily have trouser pockets. So what do we do for them?
Well, they probably have pockets in their trousers. They just don't necessarily always wear trousers to work. Yeah. So, in fact, the first time I ever delivered that bit of guidance, having tried it after Michael suggested it, I got some pushback from a female manager in the room. So we've come up with a second technique for those of you without trouser pockets at work, either because you don't have pockets or because you don't have trousers on. And we suspect this will be skewed toward our female listeners. And the answer is use hairbands on your wrist. Scrunchies even, the big floppy ones if you wanted. Wendy sent me a note today that Goodies, Goddy, Goodies, the druggist, the drug and sundry company that has retail stores all across the U.S. I think they're stronger in the Northeast and Midwest, but I could be wrong about that. Goodies now sells sort of fancy hairbands that look a little nicer, that are actually intended to be worn as bracelets as well. I mean, on your wrist, they look fine. They don't look like hairbands that are stretched over a wrist, and they look good, and then they still work.
I just steal them from my daughter.
Well, there you go. See, that'll work. That'll work just fine for you. You're good that way. So we are recommending putting scrunchies or hairbands. I'm going to call them scrunchies because it just sounds good. The scrunchies on your wrist. And what we mean by that is one scrunchie on your left wrist at the start of the day. And your goal is to look down throughout the day and go, ooh, I got to do some feedback. And then to move it from your left to your right or correct wrist during the day. Okay? Now, look, some of you are thinking, we know you're thinking this. I can't do that, Mark. I can't do that, Mike. That would mess up my professional attire, right? Poker chips are hidden away, but the scrunchie's a little too obvious, right? Particularly the big floppy
I want to look professional.
Right.
Yeah.
It would totally detract from some people's efforts at looking crisp and professional. We get that. And you'd be slightly right. Okay. And as well, Mike and I tip our hats to you because you would be appropriately embarrassing the thousands of male managers listening now who wouldn't know a sharp look from a carp hook. Right? You're like, really? That would make a difference? And some of the ladies, it would make a difference. And the guys are like, oh, I didn't know that. So ladies, we applaud you for trying to add to your professional comportment and your presentation, or at least not take away from it. It's yet another thing, guys. It's yet another thing that many female managers and professionals have to do to start leveling the playing field. So it's a good thought. We're glad you thought it, but we have an example you might want to hear before you eliminate the option of using scrunchies or hairbands, okay? We have a very long-time client and a very good friend of the firm of Manager Tools who stands out as an example of the idea that if this person can do it, if she can do it, I promise you ladies, so can you. This woman is a senior executive in one of the top 20 largest banks in the world. And a bank, mind you, where professional dress is noted. Bankers tend to dress nicer. There's an assumption about just general professionalism that banks have a little bit higher standard. This executive has run a country, CEO of the bank for the entire country. She's been responsible for countrywide commercial lending for this bank in one of the 10 largest countries in the world. So no question, senior executive, okay? Wouldn't surprise me at all if she became CEO of the bank at some point in the future. She's also not just a banker, but she's a professional, an executive, and a woman who's also very aware of fashion. She likes clothes. It wouldn't surprise us if she wore on some days $5,000 worth of clothes to work. 600 of them in her shoes alone. Custom tailoring. Elegant, perfectly put together, perfectly coiffed every time. Now, look, not flashy fashion, not showy, banker fashion. Sober, sharp, professional, elegant, fabulous. Mike and I were coaching her and her team once. End of the day, 5:30, 6 o'clock at night. She comes into the room we're sitting at the end of the day with a frustrated look on her face. Without saying a single word, she throws her wrist toward both of us, just puts them out like she wants us to put handcuffs on her wrist. And the reason she did that was because all 5 of her scrunchies were on her left wrist that day. She had 5 of them on her wrist. And she knew that the moment we saw her wrists, the right one being clean and the right one and the left one having a watch and 5 scrunchies, she knew that we would draw the same conclusion she did, which is she had a bad day. And I would like to suggest to you that if this woman, this executive at a very senior level, can put 5 scrunchies or even 1 scrunchie on her wrist, so can you.
Yeah. Yeah, folks.
Yeah.
Do it.
And by the way, guys, if you want to put scrunchies or hairbands on your wrist, knock yourself out. I got no problem with that at all. You want to use rubber bands instead? Fine. I got no problem with that at all.
Okay, so we start off with 1.
Yep.
1 a day. I don't think we're suggesting that 1 is the end state we want to be at. 1 piece of feedback a day.
Okay, that's where I want to. Okay.
Folks, you can't see this, but he's wagging his finger at me. It's like,
no, go ahead. Finish,
he's done that several times to me.
I'm going to win this argument. No, go ahead. I interrupted. You were going to say, we're not saying 1 is enough.
Right. So how do we get more? I mean, how do we progress from...
Yeah.
When do we start progressing beyond 1? And then how do we get there?
We know, and everybody else listening knows, that 1 instance of feedback a day does not answer the mail. You know that inherently as a boss, right? The issue, though, is the reason I hesitated to even put this part into this cast is that you got to start somewhere. And this is only chapter 1 of measuring feedback. The big difference...
1. I mean, just 1. I mean, just an increment of 1.
Dude, right. Yeah, 1. Right. Okay. The big difference in all situations when numbers are involved is the difference between 0 and 1. Okay? There's a lot of attention given to the difference between 1 and 2. Hey, it doubled, right?
If I go to 4, it quadrupled.
Right. When you compare the difference between 1 and 2, a doubling, with the similar increase from 2 to 3, the difference between 2 and 3 is like a 50% increase. 1 and 2 is a doubling. But that's a joke compared to the difference between 0 and 1. You do the math between the difference between 0 and 1, and you come up with infinity. 2 over 1
and that's
is
a good
improvement.
Double. And that's a good improvement.
Yeah, 2 over 1 is double. 1 over 0 is infinity big. It's bigger than Google, which is saying something. And I mean Google with an OL at the end, not an LE at the end. We've got to get people off of 0. When you're off of 0, you can measure. You can actually start thinking about quality and you can start thinking about increases. So here's what we're going to do. Folks, if all you do from this cast is get to 1, bravo. If you can do 1 on a regular basis, bravo. Okay? And I'm not saying that makes you a great manager, but if you want to spend a while at 1, just mastering feedback, great. I could actually tell you there are ways to get better faster, and that's by doing it more often. But 1 versus 0 is infinitely better. Okay, just do the math. It's infinitely better. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to add more poker chips to those pockets or scrunchies to those wrists. After we prove we can move them from the left to the right or correct pocket, then we're going to start adding more. What we want to do is put together a series of wins here to prove, okay, I've established that as my standard. Now you can start, you can add more goals.
So one day having moved the poker chip from my left pocket to my right or correct pocket is not enough.
No.
A string of wins.
Yeah. Here's how you progress. If you can go 5 straight business days giving just one, instance of positive or negative feedback, depending upon where you are in the rollout, you've graduated and you get to add another poker chip to your pocket. 5 days in a row. So let's say you started this on a Monday and you give some feedback. I'm not going to say positive or negative. You get some feedback Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. You forget on Thursday and you say, okay, I'm going to do it twice on Friday and I'm good. Nope. Sorry.
You gotta start over.
No, start over. Even if you give 5 in one day, that doesn't count for the whole week. You have to give 1 each day. I don't care if you give 10 on Tuesday, you can only get credit for 1 because you only have 1 poker chip in your pocket. On the other hand, I'll make it easy on you. I don't care if you give every day of the week, you give the same bit of feedback to the same person. I literally don't care. You could argue, we should be measuring quality. We should be measuring spread across the team.
Oh, no, you beat that out of me. Oh, I've given that up.
Yeah, let's just start with the simplest possible thing. Did he or did he not? That's really what we start at. So if you can go 5 straight business days, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, I missed Thursday. Nope, start over. Friday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Ooh, missed Thursday. Sorry, start over again. Friday, skip Monday. Ooh, start over again.
And by the way, folks, this is a typical experience.
Yeah. Monday, oh, darn, I forgot Tuesday. Start over again on Wednesday. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Monday, missed it. Start on Tuesday. And of course, the problem is everybody misses Monday and then they have to start on Tuesday. And even if they get 4 days in a row, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday,
still got that Monday.
They got the Monday thing and it kills them. They're starting Tuesday. The number of times I started a week on Tuesday with my poker chip. Another bad one is Friday. I missed a lot of Fridays in the beginning because it's Friday. And suddenly everybody's gone at 4 o'clock and you're like, dang, there's no one here to give feedback. I could call somebody on the phone while they're driving home. But
if I miss Monday and I start on Tuesday, I get all the way to Friday, I got 4 in a row.
Yeah.
Hey, folks, we're all coming in on Saturday.
Yeah.
At least for an hour.
The first person who gets there on time,
I'm done.
I'm giving them positive feedback, and then we're all going home for the weekend. Nope. If you go 5 straight business days, and I promise you, easily half of the audience, perhaps as much as 80%, won't make that within a month.
Yeah. Oh,
yeah. 5 days in a row. Because it's new behavior. We're going from 0 to 1. It's going to be hard. Okay? Then, okay, now you say, okay, what happens when I end up with 2 poker chips in my pocket? Oh, as you might imagine, it's the same basic thing. We want to make this dirt simple. So go 5 straight days again with both poker chips moved from your left to your right or correct pocket. Okay.
I feel good because I thought you were going to say 10 days. You were going to like double the number of
No. Oh, dear. I think if we added 5 more days each time, we literally would guarantee that no one would ever finish the process.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. So I want you to go 5 days in a row. I don't care if it takes you a month to get from 0 to 1, but once you get 5 days in a row with 1, then you put 2. And now it starts over. We want 5 days in a row with 2. And this is also going to take most of you a month. And it'll be very, very frustrating. And the question will be, do you want to be a better manager or do you want to get patted on the back for something that's not that big a deal?
Right. Do it, and then 3, and then 4, then 5.
Yeah.
And pretty soon, you've developed a new managerial habit.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't know how many days that takes. What I know is, even if it takes you 6 months to get through this, our goal is to get you to go 5 days in a row with all your chips in the right or correct pocket in order to get to 5 chips, doing 5 bits of feedback. I don't care to who on your team, only your directs, of course, a whole week, 5 days in a row with 5 bits of feedback. If you give 25 bits of feedback each week to your team, you're giving plenty. Yeah. Plenty. Now, there are cases where I might want somebody to give more, but the average manager, 25 bits of feedback. The key is your barrier to giving feedback has gone down to virtually 0 because you're giving feedback so frequently. We don't want to make it any harder on you. Or if we do make it harder, it will only be after you've proven to us that you can do this as easily as you can breathe, and therefore it won't be that hard. If you can do it that easily, a little bit of extra burden won't be any problem at all. But if we put too many burdens on you early, you're going to stumble, you're going to fall, and you're not going to want to get back up because the system only has negative feedback built in it for you, if you will.
Yeah. And so look, it's somebody, if you haven't done this before, start with 1, then 2, then 3, then 4, then 5. And if you're successful, send us an email.
Yeah.
And tell us about your experience, and we'll share it with folks on the air because I'm sure it'll be very interesting.
Yeah, I love it. Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's easy. If it weren't so bloody hard. I mean, it's just hard to learn a new something and to do it every day, every single day. Now, look, you don't have to ever have more than 5 poker chips in your pocket. We don't want you to walk around looking like you're stealing coins from a laundromat, right? No, we don't want your trousers to get ruined. The lighter the poker chips, the better, by the way. If you want to use pennies, you can, I suppose. Anything you want. You could use marbles, but it would probably look pretty weird in your pocket at the end of the day. Poker chips are flat and they're generally light. But Mike's right. Send us a mail. Tell us you did it. We'll trust you, honor system, right? But if you tell us you did it in 5 weeks, we're going to raise an eyebrow. We're going to say, nah, nobody does 5 a day. If you have, we're assuming you have more than 1 direct. But 1 direct, 25 bits of feedback in a week, woof,
that'd be a lot.
That's a lot. That's a lot. But it's no harder than that, folks. Look, measuring starts with quantity. Only count how many. Don't worry about to whom or when or positive or negative. Use the poker chips, use the hair bands, and build up to 5 and try to get through 5 in a week. And then you can check it off and say, okay, it's a habit now that's second nature to me. The key to measuring feedback is to measure ourselves until the point where we have made it an habitual part of our daily managerial practice. The only way to do that is to start by counting and building up gradually. Don't worry too much in the beginning about whether you're giving it perfectly. Just do more, build up, and keep track. And the more often you do it, the more likely you are to approach that moment of perfection. And when you do it perfectly early on, you say, wow, that feels good. Keep that in mind and motivate yourself to keep giving more, because that's what your directs want. That's what everybody tells us. I wish my boss would tell me more often how I'm doing, good or bad.
Yep, every time.
And that's it.
Thanks, my friend.
My pleasure, partner.
All righty, we'll see you. Thanks, everyone. That's it. We'll see you next week. In the meantime, have a great one. So long.